Okay, first thing we're going to do is take your sketch and a white color pencil. We're going to have you pick out your favorite phrases or words that stuck out to you during the tour. So what I like to do is start with the lightest pressure and just kind of move up from there. Alright, so while we're going over with our color pencil, we want to make sure that we're layering our words and our phrases, and even if we do some sketches, what that does is it creates depth in our piece. We're creating more of a background, a middle ground, and a foreground, especially when we're going to use the Conte later on and alter that with the really thin, light color pencil. After we're finished with the white color pencil, we're going to go ahead and move on to our white pastel pencil. The pastel pencil is thicker, but the point allows for more control, so I can continue writing my words. Okay, once I'm happy with the colored pencil words, I'm going to go ahead and move on to the Conte. I like that the Conte is an in-between thickness of the pencils and chalk. And you can turn it and use it on its side to make thicker lines like this, or you can just use it kind of like a pencil. Well, the last part I'm going to do with this is I'm going to just take my finger, and we also have paper towels, and we're just going to go over some of the words or phrases. You can totally smudge them like this. I like to use my finger and like go over specific words. I like the idea because it kind of erases it, but at the same time you can still see the word. Or you can use the paper towel if you'd like to. Now that I have used the paper towel in my hand to smudge our pieces, I'm going to use the kneaded eraser. Once the kneaded eraser gets like full of gunk, you can just like fold it into itself and it'll clean itself up. Really nice for like specific areas if you want to clean up or take out, smaller pieces. You can also go back in and take out large pieces with this too. So if I wanted to take out this whole thing, you could do that. It's really nice because it creates like the faded look, kind of like how this C is looking, and you can just take out like layers upon layers. So if I want this A to be just a little bit lighter at the top, I can do that with the kneaded eraser. And I wiped out my area in the middle, but we can go back in and you can turn it and make it pointed, and you can go in and do like smaller areas like that.
Okay, ready? So now that you have your background laid out, we're going to be working on a line drawing for the boxing gloves. You first do a simple drawing, you want to lay out your boxing glove, make it just very general. And I need to sharpen my pencil, so this will help sharpen. Twist the pencil, not the sharpener. And then when you're drawing, what helps me is using the pencil sideways. And you can rotate the pencil so you keep a nice point, always. Okay, now the next step is identifying the darkest spots of the glove and the lightest spots of the glove. So for that, you want to take like your cool colors, like your greens, your blues, your violets, for the darkest. And for the lightest, you take like your warm colors, your yellows, your oranges, your peaches. So I'll do darkest first. That's how I work. I work dark first. So I find like the darkest parts. And just to show you, here's a already made copy. You can see the darkest darks are where the blue is, that really dark blue, navy blue. And then the lightest lights are like where I put my yellow. These are the highlights. And then I'll go back and put some more white where I see like the brightest whites. So we're working on the colored pencil technique on the gloves, making it from two-dimensional into a three-dimensional glove. The highlights, the really bright highlights, the whites, will make that glove really stand out. But in order to do that, you have to add some yellows into that, some really warm colors next to it. That'll transition from the white into the red. So right in here, in this part of the glove, it looks very three-dimensional. Whereas maybe this part over here where I'm adding yellow, it's not as three-dimensional. So we're moving on to the burnishing stage. So now that you have your warm and cool colors added, so you have your whites and your yellows, which are my warm colors as highlights, and your blues and the black of the paper, which is my dark value. We're going to start adding in the final color and burnishing to make it look a lot smoother and hopefully a three-dimensional appearance. So you take your final color, which red is mine. You can use any color for that, but I use red because boxing gloves are usually red. You just go over all the colors except for some of the highlights. You want these highlights to show, and some of the dark values. You want that to show some value. All right, so got your completed drawing of your gloves. And all I'm doing is just cutting it out. And if there's some lines on it that you don't want, like some of the sketch lines, I'm cutting them right off. And a trick that helps me cut is not to have the scissors go all the way to the tip as you release, but cut from the middle. So the scissors are almost always open.
All right, so our last step is to take our background that we created, and this is my background, but we're gonna figure out where we want our boxing gloves to go. So here are my gloves. We wanna create a dynamic composition with our piece as a whole. So what I don't want you to do is just take your gloves and put them smack dab in the middle. It definitely takes away from my words, takes away from my sketches, and it really kind of throws off the layering. So what I want you guys to just go ahead and try them in different spots throughout your composition, and whatever you decide you like I like mine over here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and keep those there. So we're gonna use glue and glue these down. Now I know you guys all know how to glue, but we're gonna go back to 2nd grade, and I'm gonna remind you to do just a dot, not a lot. And we're gonna go all the way around the edges of the gloves. If we just do the edges, it makes it a lot easier. It makes it flatter, and it just looks better. Now, when we're finished with this, we're gonna go ahead and glue these down. And if you notice, if I were to touch this, it comes up. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a spray fixative, which you guys might have used before or heard of, but we'll just spray all over. We'll have to take it outside or under the hood, and it will just kind of set everything in place, and once you touch it, it won't come up. So it'll be easier to take home, it won't get on your clothes, and then you'll have a beautiful finished piece. One of the last things we're going to have you do is write a reflection. So in your reflection, you're just going to write it on the back of your note paper. And we want you to just kind of discuss like why you chose some of the words that you chose. So like in mine, one of the things I had wrote with my pencil was inferior/superior. What makes somebody feel one or the other? So discussing my specific words and sketches in the pastel pencil, I wrote I am not a woman, kind of a play off of the Dred Scott's I am not a man. And I wrote I am a warrior. I layered some of these words on top of the other words. I layered community on top of perspective, because sometimes I feel like your community or the way that you think that you are supposed to react overshadows like your own perspective. I also wrote unearthed history. This is a really important one to me. I feel like with this show, we are talking about so much history that I never learned. So I really liked having this in bold, and it's in all capital letters, because to me that was very important. I also discussed Lincoln. One of the things that we talked about was how he was speaking to his community in the piece. And that's not the Lincoln that we know. Is it okay for him to talk like that if he's trying to get votes or talk to that specific group of people, knowing that that's what they want to hear?
I feel that by layering important words, ideas, and sketches that I am pulling the viewer into want to see more. The most important words and phrases that I said were human race, I am not a woman, I am a warrior, and what can I do to help? By layering on top of these words, they become overshadowed. This becomes a metaphor for how people in the media can influence you and make you question your morals and beliefs with handpicked and altered stories.